Hello everybody, welcome to my top 10 anime of 2014. I already talked about the anime that came out in English, so let's talk about the anime that came out in Japan. The main rule for this list is that the anime in question has to have concluded by the year 2014. So this is kind of long, so let's just jump right in. Number 10, Brynhildr in the Darkness. I most likely pronounced that incorrectly, but that's not the point. What is the point is this interesting anime. The plot, in short, is about the main character, Ryota, meeting these girls who are on the run from an evil secret organization who gave them superpowers in an experiment and wants to kill them because of it. I think the omnipresent threat of death throughout the entire show creates an interesting tone. For example, even when they're having fun, it's always in the back of their head that they could be ruthlessly murdered at any given time. There are also other things I like about the show, such as Ryota being smart and methodical, and how one of the girls has the ability to see into the future. I think the only thing that holds this show back is the dude who wrote it is the same dude who wrote Elfen Lied, so some people have way too high of standards for it, and also the show did skip over a large part of the manga. But that can't be helped, so whatever. It's still a pretty good anime that is definitely worth a watch. Number 9, Magical Warfare. I think this is an anime that gets a lot of hate for no reason. It's about a group of kids that one day have a magical power awaken within them, and then they go to a magic school to learn how to use their powers, all while this big magic war is happening. I quite enjoyed this anime. Its action scenes are cool, I like the character development, and it has a training montage. But, for some reason, a lot of people just don't like this anime. I've seen two main complaints about it. The first one being that it starts out with a lot of action scenes but then gets boring, and I believe what they are referring to is after the first episode or two there are a few episodes of just plot and character development, and apparently that is considered a bad thing for some reason. And it does get back to fighting, but it just has a balance between that and plot. The second thing people complain about, and by complain about I mean get violently upset and invalidate the entire show, is the cliffhanger ending. A, it's not the show's fault that they were only able to do 12 episodes and had to end it the way that they did. And B, when did a cliffhanger become a bad thing? What happened to the days where we're all like, oh boy, hope there's a season 2, can't wait to find out what happened. And now y'all like, this ending sucks. Anyway, ran over, long story short, people are stupid and the show is pretty good. Number 8, Strike the Blood. I'll try to make this brief since the last number went a little ranty. The story takes place in Itogami City, which is a city for monsters such as werewolves, vampires, and the such. Then, a sword shaman Yukina is sent out to the city to observe the main character Koju, who is suspected of being the strongest vampire in the world, and together they go on many adventures to save the day, because it's a city full of monsters. How well did you think that would go? I enjoyed this anime because it uses its concept of a city full of both good and bad monsters quite well, and the main character has some pretty cool powers, like summoning a giant two-headed dimension-eating dragon. It also has a pretty sick Terminator reference, which is always a good thing in my book. One last thing, I know I hate when people compare anime for no reason, but the way that the show is presented and its setting is a little similar to the show A Certain Magical Index. Not to the point where they're too similar, but just enough to say if you like one, you might like the other. I also like the art style, how the edges fade and distort sometimes. It's pretty neat. Number 7, Black Bullet. Hey, do you like guns? Do you like lolis? Then I have the show for you. The story mostly revolves around Rentaro and his partner Inju trying to save Japan from monsters and other things that want them dead. I really enjoy this show, not just because of the lolis and the guns, although that does help. But I also like it because it has a cool post-apocalyptic / doomsday kind of feel. I also really like Kagetane. He is high contender for favorite villain with the way that he's not really a villain in the traditional sense. He just likes causing chaos. Anyway, I don't want to spoil too much. It's got lolis, it's got guns, it's a good show. Number 6, Chaika, the Coffin Princess. The story revolves around Toru and his sister Akari, who are mercenaries and are hired by the title girl, Chaika, to recover her deceased father's remains. Said remains are in the possession of evil and crazy people, so you could probably imagine the sticky situations they get themselves into. The two things I think set the show apart is the character of Chaika and the presentation. Chaika has a vague and interesting backstory that slowly unveils itself as the show progresses, and such backstory also comes with character development, so that's cool. As for the presentation of the show, it has an art style and general feel of an anime from the early 2000s, 2005-ish, and I think that gives it a really unique feel. Number 5, Fate Clade Liner Season 2. This is the second season to Fate Stay Night's spin-off series where Elia becomes a magical girl. During this season, they have completed collecting the magic cards from the last season when out of the blue, an evil version of Elia shows up and starts causing trouble. What I liked most about this season is the dynamic between Elia and Evil Elia, or Dark Elia, or Black Elia, I think the show called her. But whatever, that's not important right now. I like the relationship between them, how Dark Elia is constantly either trying to kill or replace the nice Elia. I put the first season higher on my list last year, and that's because I liked how it had more action scenes. The second season still has a lot of amazing fight scenes, but it just has a bit more downtime than I like. But I did enjoy it, which is why it's number 5 on this list. Number 4, Kill la Kill. For those who don't know, Kill la Kill is the spiritual successor to Gurren Lagann, being that it was made by the same people. It's about Ryuko transferring to Hinoji Academy looking for the person who murdered her father. Where I think this show really shines is how over the top it is. Everything from the revealing outfits to the insane fight scenes is very much intentionally exaggerated. And between all the craziness, it still has time for a very deep plot, and it achieves this by having the show be so fast-paced. My favorite example of this is when they tried to have a recap episode, but just blew through it in like 2 minutes before going on with the rest of the episode. If you like fast-paced, over-the-top anime with a pretty good plot, then you'll probably enjoy this. Number 3, No Game, No Life. I will try to keep this as spoiler-free as physically possible. The story starts with expert gamer Sora and his sister Shiro being transported to another world where there is no war, and instead everything is decided by playing games. In this world, they have to take this run-down kingdom and return it to its former glory. The main thing I like about this show is it has 2 things I like to see in a show. An interesting gimmick that it uses well, and it's very smart. In this world, everything from little arguments to ownership of territory is determined by games. These games can be anything like just card games or something a bit more intense. And the show handles this all very well, and how both the way that it is written and the characters in it are very smart. Before I move on, just as an FYI, the top 2 were really difficult to decide on because I just liked them both so much. But in the end, the list must go on. Number 2, Little Buster's Refrain and EX. Refrain was at the very tail end of 2013, and I didn't get around to it back then, so I just stuck it together with EX and called it good. Anyway, Little Buster's Refrain is the conclusion to the first part, which aired in early 2013. For those of you not in the know, Little Buster's is written by Key, the same people who wrote Clannad, and while it's not quite up to that level, it is still pretty good with the level of feels that it gets to. Something I like about Key is that they're always trying new things. Like, this show is so different from their previous work, if I didn't tell you that it and Clannad were made by the same company, you probably wouldn't have guessed. But they still do an amazing job every time. As for EX, it covers the extra storylines added in the expansion pack of the original visual novel. I like it because it takes place after Refrain, so they can use the huge spoiler at the end of that in interesting ways, and I think that it's really cool. Number 1, Sword Art Online Season 2. I know, a lot of you gonna hate me, but just hear me out, okay? Season 2 of Sword Art Online covers 3 arcs from the books. The Phantom Bullet arc that takes up the first 14 episodes, the Caliber arc which goes on for 3 episodes, and the Mother's Rosario arc that continues for the 7 remaining episodes. The Phantom Bullet arc takes place approximately 1 year after the events of the first season, where Kirito is asked by Sejiro, I believe his name is, to go to a virtual reality game called Gun Gale Online to investigate the mysterious real-life murders taking place within the game. Something I really like about this arc is that the game they are in is so different from the other environments that the show normally has. Where Sword Art Online and Alfheim Online are more of a fantasy setting with swords and magic, Gun Gale Online is steampunk with a focus on guns. I also like Shino, a girl Kirito meets in the game, because she and Kirito have an interesting parallel between them of how they both had similar trauma in their past, but they're both dealing with it in different ways. The Caliber arc's not too important, it's only 3 episodes and about them trying to find some rare sword. The Mother's Rosario arc, on the other hand, oh boy, this arc. It's only 7 episodes, so I can't say too much without spoilers. But, in short, it's about Asuna meeting Yuki, who is one of the best players in the game, and she asks Asuna's help with beating a dungeon boss. The main thing about this arc is that it is both very sad and beautiful at the same time, I guess is the best way to describe it. I was going to put this season at like number 3 or 4, but things like this are very easy to screw up, and I think it's just so well done that it deserves a number 1 spot, in my opinion. So that's it. In short, 2014 was a great year for anime. I had a really tough time making this list. I had to change the order of it like 20 times. And 2015 looks like it's going to be another good one, like Season 2 of Fate Stay Night and I'll Node Zero, which is why I didn't put the first season of those on the list. And new shows like the Kantai Collection anime and the new anime that Key's working on. So, until then, feel free to watch my other anime lists that I've linked in the description, and I'll see y'all again next year. Bye!